Welcome back to day number 4 of the Norway and Jehovah's Witness saga. The price we pay, that's the price that Jehovah's Witnesses pay for their appeal. Last year it cost them $500,000 for their lawyer, Risdal. They kind of padded it a bit, but and then they had to pay because they lost, they had to pay the court fees, $108,000, the other side. So I like the title, The Price We Pay. The price we, as I guess you, if you're a Jehovah's Witness. And what's the price we pay on the outside world? Well, we're still being shunned, so I'm not sure. That's a pretty big price, but we'll see what happens. Maybe this will all go away. They have made lots of changes on the last court case. They made a ton of changes. They canceled videos. They started wearing beards. Women started wearing slacks. They made a ton of changes. They lightened. They could say hi to a disfellowship person at the Kingdom Hall now. But other than that, it's all pretty much the same. You're still shunned. I guess a hi is nice at the Kingdom Hall, but it doesn't cut it. You're still shunned. You go home, you can't have any social contact with your relatives or friends. Okay, so here it is, the price we pay, day number 4, the appeal. And this is kind of a waiting room. It looks like a picture there. They're all waiting to go into the courtroom. K31 is the courtroom. There's a couple waiting. This is where the Jehovah's Witness appeal is held early morning before the day's hearing starts. Now, this article is published by Miss Usato, and it was last updated February 6th. Today is February 10th. So this all went down February 6th. Now, it was difficult. It was a difficult time knowing that I had disappointed Jehovah, Miss Torp. That's her statement. Oslo, Norway, today. We report on the proceedings for the 4th day of Jehovah's Witness appeal against the state of Norway. And the witnesses for the appellant continues to give their testimony before the court. There are 8 persons given evidence today, including Professor Gerhard Besier and Branch Representative Kåre Sæterhaug, and we provide evidence from 7 of the witnesses. So witness number 10, Miss Torp, Solveig Torp's testimony covers her and her family's experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses, JW, including her initial interest as fellowshipping and return. And her mother's Bible study led to the family's opposition, but her father later became interested. Solveig was baptized at 15, but disfellowshipped at 22 after deciding she no longer wanted to be a JW. Under the cross-examination by the state, she didn't decide that she didn't want to be a JW. She decided to leave her husband and get together with a colleague. Sounds familiar. Now, she found disfellowshipping difficult, but returned for spiritual and social support. She had to sit at the back. She said elders would occasionally speak with her, and she supports practice, believing it to be a loving arrangement. Now, her children are also JWs, and she defends their maturity in making that choice. She rejects claims that JW is a closed community and criticizes the loss of government subsidies, feeling stigmatized for her beliefs. So she criticizes the loss of government subsidies. Why would Jehovah's Witnesses do that? I thought they want to be no part of the world. I thought that the governments were part of the evil Satan thing. What do they expect? Why are they expecting subsidies? Why do they need subsidies? Why can't they just donate? If they want to keep their kingdom halls going, just like Scientology, they can just run it themselves. Scientology doesn't get any subsidies. And that's all they do. They're just a literature-based religion organization. They're not a religion, they're a cult. They follow people. Now, feeling stigmatized for her beliefs, that's what she says. She's worried about losing that subsidies and then feeling stigmatized. How do they feel stigmatized? Jehovah's Witnesses don't even deal with the public. They stay away from the world out there. So how are they going to feel stigmatized? This is just all feelings that are put into their mind by by their leaders. That's what this is. Well, here's a little comic. Disfellowshipping is a loving arrangement. There she is on the stand. And all the JWs in the audience. They're thinking this is just great. Okay, one of the many terms Miss Torp regurgitates from the Watchtower material is disfellowshipping is a loving arrangement. And that's what they have in their magazines. That disfellowshipping is a loving arrangement. Okay, so Torp's testimony reflects the terminology and the perspectives commonly used by Jehovah's Witnesses. For example, at the outset, she talked about pleasing Jehovah, an expression only Jehovah's Witnesses use to emphasize their loyalty and obedience to the Watchtower. Well, wait a minute, it says to Jehovah. But it's to the Watchtower because it's not to God. It's obedience to the Watchtower, obedience to the 11 men. Let's be clear about that one. But yeah, they like to say it's obedience to Jehovah. That's what they like to believe. I did the same thing for 30 years. I wanted to believe that I was following Jehovah, but I was actually following men. And I got caught up in it for 30 years, so it's easy to do. Easy to get caught up in a cult. Now, she described disfellowshipping as a loving arrangement, and this is the description often found in Jehovah's Witness literature. It's unlikely that Mrs. Torp would describe disfellowshipping as a loving arrangement if she had never encountered that terminology in the literature. She would have thought, what a piece of crap way of dealing with people. That's what I thought. I was 6 months in and I got disfellowshipped. I thought I was ready to quit. I wasn't going back. It was the ex that was so worried about losing out on eternal life. But I went back and made the journey. Do you know why I made the journey? So I can do what I'm doing now. I believe that everything happens for a reason. So it is what it is. The phrase is well known, JW doctrinal expression consistently used in their publications, talks, and teachings to frame disfellowshipping as necessary, even beneficial, a beneficial form of discipline. And if she had arrived at her views independently, she might describe the experience in more personal or neutral terms, such as a difficult but necessary decision or a form of correction. However, by using the specific JW phrase, it suggests she has internalized the organization's explanations of disfellowshipping rather than formulated a description entirely on her own. And that's true because all she is saying is stuff that's in the magazines. These are programmed indoctrinations that the puppets or the people just recite at rote because it's been programmed into them so many times in the from the magazines, Watchtower and the Awake. Now, she spoke about living a double life. While outsiders might think of this as a double life, as a life of deceit and hypocrisy, this is not what it means for a Jehovah's Witness. Now, this phrase is often used by the organization to describe individuals who engage in behavior contrary to their beliefs while still identifying as a witness, a double life. So, it's not that you have to do anything bad to live a double life. You could be a child and have some worldly friends at school, and that would be classified as living a double life because maybe you hang out with them a bit at school. Maybe you might even, if you're a young person, you might even hang out with them after school, in secret. Then that would be a double life. You see, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just associating with people that are out in the world, people that are good people. But yet the JWs will narrow that down and say anything outside of our organization, you're leading a double life. That's how that's how much control this religion puts on each person in there. So let's read this. She spoke about living a double life. While outsiders might think of this as deceit, hypocrisy, it's not what it means for a JW. One could argue that she was living a life that aligned with her authentic self. However, that might conflict with the strict tenets of the Jehovah's Witness. Therefore, she lived a double life, secretly engaging in behaviors deemed unacceptable by the organization. At one point, She broke down crying as she told the court she had disappointed Jehovah. And this is a strong emotional and doctrinal theme in the organization's teachings, reinforcing accountability. It is rare outside of high control groups for people to feel such strong feelings of guilt for living their authentic lives. And that's really what it is. You can't live your life. You can't live, if you wanted to be in that organization and write a book and publish it, you're going to have a lot of resistance within that organization. You can't live your life. You have to leave the organization and write your books. That was one of the things when I left, I wrote a bunch of books. And then they came back. They followed me up, came back. I'd left in 2012, and this was like 2018. They came back and followed me up and demonized all my books. They actually went to some people up north. I wrote it about the northern Arctic, and they demonized it. But that's what they do. You can't do anything outside of this religion. You're leading a double life. So even if you leave the religion, they come at you later because they haven't yet announced you. So you're kind of unfinished business. They either have to visit you once a year, see if you're going to come back, or they have to announce you as disassociated. They want everything clean. They don't want you associating with any of their people on the inside. They're afraid. So she used other terms, including biblical arrangement and concern about stigmatization, losing government subsidies. That's weird. The biblical arrangement is Jehovah's Witnesses' way to justify their practices, including disfellowshipping and child baptism. And the latter terms has been used frequently in JW material, videos, and written materials on their websites and publications to discuss opposition, religious persecution, and government restrictions as a sign of the world's opposition to what they believe to be is true worship. So they do. They discuss how the governments are going to persecute you. They like to talk about Russia. Now I wonder what they're talking about regarding the politics in North America. I guess that'll come out. Now, while Miss Torp may genuinely believe her statements, her language and reasoning align so closely with JW teachings that they suggest indoctrination rather than independent critical thought. Her testimony reflects a worldview shaped by the organization, making it difficult to separate her personal feelings from the doctrinal framework imposed on her. And folks, Miss Usato, who wrote this, she did an excellent job in showing how a person's mind gets into this cult and how our minds get warped, and therefore our speech and how we talk is very regiment, very watchtower-like. It's not true to ourself. So very nice job in writing. Now we're going to look at witness number 11, Miss Holland. It starts out by saying, I have a friend who is no longer a practicing Jehovah's Witness, and she couldn't go to the meetings or the conventions while she was with her boyfriend. Ooh, she had a boyfriend. Okay, well, Miss Holland is 20 years old, was raised as a JW in a stable. What kind of a stable? Like a cow stable? Horse stable? No, it was in a witness stable. She was in a witness stable. I'm just playing with you a bit. She was raised as a Jehovah's Witness in a stable and supportive environment. I was trying to make it look like a barn, the Kingdom Hall. It is like a barn. It's dirty. It's not clean. Anyways, her mother passed away when she was young, and she moved to Oslo after her father remarried. While she had many friends outside of the JW community, she did not feel pressured by her parents about attending meetings or preaching. Viewing it as a part of her routine, although Jehovah's Witnesses avoid certain celebrations, Miss Holland felt that she was allowed to make her own choices, including attending birthday parties and observing holidays. Bullshit. That's a lie. How can they lie like that? Okay, if you're a Jehovah's Witness out there, can you attend birthday parties and observe holidays? Well, what does it mean? Can you observe? Can you put up a Christmas tree? Can you buy your kids Christmas presents? Can you go to the New Year's celebration, the dance, the fireworks? Can you do all of that? Can you go to Valentine's Day? Can you buy, the list goes on and on. You can't even observe Mother's Day. You can't even give your mother a kiss on Mother's Day in that religion. That's how high control it is. So we know this is a lie, including attending birthday parties and observing holidays. Anyways, they don't mind lying in court. I should show you the watchtower that supports it. I will after that. I'll look it up here. I'll pause it and I'll show you the watchtower at the end that supports them lying like this in court. It's right from their watchtower. Now, she was baptized at 18 after reflecting on her faith. She doesn't feel the fear of exclusion as she understands its purpose in encouraging change based on love. However, she shared that a friend of hers who was no longer practicing JW faced pressure to celebrate Christmas and her birthday, even though she didn't want to join in on those things. And it appears that the girl's boyfriend will not allow her to attend meetings or conventions of the Jehovah's Witnesses while she is with him. Good on him. And during the defense's questioning, Miss Hallen clarified that she had never been expelled from the congregation. She described her typical week as an 11 to 12-year-old, explaining that she attended meetings twice a week, spent time with her family to prepare, and once a week went preaching and had family study. And at around 16 or 17, she became an unbaptized publisher, which meant she was living a life in line with biblical principles. Well, what that really means is she was living in line with the watchtower. Let's put aside the biblical principles, because the biblical principles are far beyond the watchtower. And they're really simple. They're really about love, which you see an unbaptized publisher would have signed that blood card, which they would have at that point chosen life, death over life. They would choose, they don't want that, but they would have been coerced into that by the time they're an unbaptized publisher. And we know that's not biblically based. Now, as if she were baptized, though no specific consequences occurred if someone struggled to fully live according to those principles. So an unbaptized publisher, yes, it's like you're baptized. You're living the same life. You're just basically waiting for the next assembly so that you can get baptized. That's what it is. You probably went over the questions already, or you're about to. They got you on the questions for baptism. So it says, though no specific consequences occurred if someone struggles to fully live according to those principles, if you're an unbaptized publisher. Well, I'm sorry to say, but if you're an unbaptized publisher, you do get announced if you screw up. They announce it. They say, Vern Hoel is no longer an unbaptized publisher. They announce your name. They embarrass you. They do that. The same as anything else. And then people are going to look at you sideways. They're not going to look at you the same. They're not going to talk to you the same because you're announced. You're no longer, you screwed up. And they're going to treat you like a disfellowship person. Okay, so she explained that when dealing with someone who is disfellowship, social contact is limited and spiritual contact is broken, but they are still welcome to attend the meetings. Well, that's true. There's limits in contact, so she's being honest there. Okay, so here's a picture of the courtroom. Who do we have there? That's the panel of judges. Looks like there's 3 of them. And now we're into witness number 12, Miss Sawyer. And she says, my mother was a hardline opponent. Miss Sawyer tells the court that she is familiar with the practice of excommunication, as it was explained to her before baptism. And she was eventually disfellowshipped from the congregation for about a year after falling in love with being in a situation that conflicted with the congregation's teachings. She contacted the congregation elders due to a guilty conscience, wanting to resolve the double life she was living, and during her removal, similar to the term used for someone who had died, is about to be buried, during her removal. Yeah, they changed this term. They call it removal now, during her disfellowshipping. She had no contact with the congregation, only maintaining social connections at work and with her partner. She found leaving difficult and missed the community but didn't actively seek to return. And the reason for her return was a realization that what she had learned from Jehovah's Witnesses was correct. This was triggered by a comment from her partner and made her think that he might be aligning with her mother, who was seriously opposed to the Jehovah's Witnesses. This led to their breakup. And reflecting on the excommunication process, she views it as a two-sided. It serves to keep the congregation pure while also providing the individual a chance to reflect on their actions. And during her cross-examination by the state, Miss Sawyer was asked about her contact with disfellowshipped individuals, to which she responded that they receive a brief greeting when she encounters such ones. And when asked about the teaching on exclusion, she explained that the Bible instructs Jehovah's Witnesses to remove individuals from the congregation and avoid even eating with them. And she explained that this same rule applies to those who leave the faith voluntarily. And that's the way it is. And she confirmed that she was an unbaptized publisher and was familiar with the term bad association, which refers to individuals whose behavior is contrary to the Bible teachings. So she seemed to be more straight with her comments. Didn't seem like this lady wanted to lie in court. So anyways, witness 13, Miss Bratas. Here's the picture. Mr. Bratas, this is a guy. Mr. Bratas. So he's sitting all alone in a back alley, probably disfellowshipped. Bratas believes that the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses has protected him from vices of alcohol and drug abuse. Bratas is an 18-year-old with both his parents being Jehovah's Witnesses. He has one sister who is also a member, while the other is not. And they have a normal relationship with their non-JW sister. Growing up, he didn't experience many strict rules beyond the usual, though there were extra rules related to JW teachings, particularly regarding substances like drugs, tobacco, and alcohol. He was baptized less than 2 years ago after a period of Bible study and discussion with elders to ensure he understood the faith. He didn't feel pressured to be baptized. He felt free to make his own choices, except if he was ever in a car accident, needed a blood transfusion, he'd find that his choice would be made for him by the HLC. Now, while he was faced teasing from students and some teachers at school because of his religious beliefs, he has always been informed about the concept of exclusion, has never been afraid of it. When asked if exclusion would be an obstacle to leaving the faith, he hesitated, but stated that they could leave whenever they wanted, and he didn't see it as a direct obstacle. In cross-examination by the state, Bratas testified that his sister has never been a Jehovah's Witness and would never become one. And he said he was baptized at 16, knew about the disfellowshipping arrangement beforehand, as it was discussed in meetings and explained through the Bible references in the Watchtower. He described disfellowshipping as a process for individuals who commit serious sins and continue to believe such behavior is acceptable, leading to a break in normal association with the congregation. And he acknowledged the possibility of this happening to him and the impact it could have on the family relationships, though he seemed resigned to it as part of the faith's teachings. And regarding the rules, he explained that the Bible prohibits premarital sex, relations with non-JWs, including having a girlfriend who is not a JW. And as an unbaptized preacher, he was allowed to preach on his own, and when he asked about the practices of exclusion, he confirmed that he was told to follow it, although he said this is like he was asking a question. So that's what he said. This is the witness, Bratas, 18-year-old. Fairly straightforward. I think he's downplayed it a lot. They downplay the disfellowshipping arrangement. But let's carry on. Before we carry on, I'm going to have a sip of coffee here. And if you want to join our coffee club, you can, just below. And it helps us to keep the channel going. So we appreciate everyone who has joined. And we certainly use these funds to help with all of our fees that help us keep the channel running. So thanks to all you guys out there that are supporting that. Now, witness number 15, Mr. Fillingsness was raised as a Jehovah's Witness with his mother, father, and 2 sisters, one whom is not a JW. And he had a good upbringing but chose not to become a JW as a youth. And he began using drugs early, which escalated over 10 years, leading to party and mental health issues. His parents were saddened by his lifestyle, although he lived at home for some time. His drug use continued, and eventually he realized he couldn't continue down this path, sought help from the public sector, though he struggled to quit drugs. Now, I think that's interesting. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses struggle with this. A lot of them, I knew a lot, including my ex, that used drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and they'd get, at that time they could get prescriptions from different doctors, and they'd have all these over-the-counter drugs, codeine or whatever, to get high on. And there was other sisters in the congregation that were doing this. So there's drugs, over-the-counter drugs. Now, that's what I mostly seen in this religion. I've seen a lot of alcoholism and partying, even by the elders. A lot of partying, a lot of mental health issues. And my ex had a lot of mental health issues. I believe I had mental health issues. I believe the elder body had mental health issues. Everyone had mental health issues, and they would not go to the public sector for help. Now, it looks like he did. It looks like he did, because there's nothing in this religion that helps people, even within. Nothing. There's no programs. This religion doesn't help their own people. That's why it doesn't qualify to be a charity religion. It takes all the money and sends it to New York to help the 11 men fight off lawsuits. That's all this religion is about. Help them build their big Ramapo studio. It's all about money. Now, this kid realized that he needed help from the public sector, which was good for a young kid, though he struggled to quit drugs, so he probably attended some program. And at some point, Jehovah's Witnesses came to his door offering a Bible study. Feeling he needed help, he decided to give it a try, committed to quitting drugs. He found that becoming a JW had a very positive impact as he gained supportive friends in the congregation and entered a healthier environment. And John mentioned that one of his sisters had been disfellowshipped from the congregation, but he maintained contact with her. He was not baptized at the time. And he is now married, had a civil ceremony in the town hall, which he felt was a bit strange since they had initially wanted to marry at the Kingdom Hall, but had to go to the town hall the day before. And they held a gathering at the Kingdom Hall on Saturday after the ceremony. Well, I don't know. I was a baptized Jehovah's Witness, and I had to get married at a civil marriage. I had to hire a justice of the peace, couldn't get married in a Kingdom Hall, because not everything measured up. And you have to cross all the T's, dot all the I's. Everything has to measure up if you're going to get married in the Kingdom Hall. And if not, and you want to get married, you got to go to the public servant anyways. And that's what I had to do as a Jehovah's Witness. And I felt that was a bit strange. My whole family felt it was a bit strange. I had to have a wedding in my grandma's house and do my own thing. And not one Jehovah's Witness attended. One was my ex's mother. It's the only one that attended. It was all my family. It was an embarrassment to be in that religion. It was an embarrassment. So let's talk about this. Under cross-examination, he said that he was baptized at 2015. He said he had attended Jehovah's Witnesses' wedding before they lost the funding. Was asked about the comparison in terms of ritual. He claimed he didn't understand the question. He answered, "We can't get married." Bullshit. Just go get married at the public sector like I did. And you can have your big reception invite all your Kingdom Hall friends for your big reception. That's what everyone does anyways. You just lost the ability because of your shunning. You guys can't get that privilege. And it's good. There has to be a punishment for this stuff. So it's good that you feel embarrassed. It's good that you feel awkward. because this religion has to change their views if they want to be accepted as normal. Okay, number 16, Professor Gerhard Besier. He's a former member. Stories might be distorted or incomplete. So here's a look at this guy. Is he a liar? Look at his face, or is he going to tell the truth? Let's see. I'll let you be the judge. Professor Gerhard Besier, German Protestant theologian with links to censor the cult defense organization. So this guy defends cults. He defends Scientology. We'll look at him. He's on. There's another attachment here from Wikipedia that talks about him. So he loves cults. He's not a JW, but he's a cult lover. So this is who they bring up. He stood up for Scientology. And it seems like all the guys, these cult lovers that stand up for Scientology, are the ones that Jehovah's Witnesses have to get. So isn't that something? Your religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, is equal to a Scientology type religion. That's what you are. That's what you're in. You know, if I was in that religion today, I couldn't be in it. I couldn't be in it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay, so Professor Gerhard, let's see what he says. He holds a doctorate in theology and history. He's a professor of history, biology. He explained that Jehovah's Witnesses have faced persecution throughout history, including arrests in Germany when preaching was banned. And in a historical context, most European countries now recognize Jehovah's Witnesses as a legitimate religious group. But a lot of them call them a cult or a sect. So they don't. I don't agree with that statement. And in the European countries, there's a lot now. We're covering them that they're canceling these guys as religions. We're going to be upcoming where there's a bunch of articles that we're going to be covering on this. Now, regarding integration, Besier noted that Jehovah's Witness children participate in public schools, kindergartens, various activities like other children, even though they started a private school, a new system school. In the U.S., they started their own private school. They don't have, I emailed them, they wouldn't email me back, but they don't have teachers with teacher degrees because they don't believe in higher education and no one goes to university. So they have a bunch of kindergarten mothers in there and they're classifying these guys as teachers. So it is kind of changing. They're building their own private schools all over the world, they say. And they're saying that this is private, nothing to do with JW, but they call it the new system JW school, private school. And if you're not a JW, I don't think you can get in. So they are not socially isolated in everyday life, he says, compared to the children from other religious communities. And that's a lie. There's his first lie right there. They're not socially isolated. All Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to be socially isolated. You look at the Caleb and Sophia cartoons on JW.org. We could go all day on that. Now, when asked about the practices of exclusion, Besier explains that this is meant to encourage reflection and repentance, helping members to return. He said that this practice has evolved since March 2024 to allow Bible studies with those who have not yet returned. While exclusion is not intended to cause social isolation, it can be viewed as an unfavorable arrangement. And he compared exclusion to a penalty like revoking a driver's license for breaking traffic rules. Well, that's what's going on with the whole religion. They broke traffic rules or rules of the country regarding shunning of children. Same thing. And he pointed out that emotional distancing occurs in many social contexts when people change groups. And he also discusses how religions can help people cope with trauma and mental illness, suggesting that religious individuals may have a better mental health outcome than non-religious people. And then I ask, why do Jehovah's Witnesses have a 10% higher rate statistically of suicide than non-Jehovah's Witnesses? I asked that. And from my experience in there for 30 years, it's nothing but mental health problems all around. Many, many people. Nothing but that. Now, in terms of exclusion, the practice is common in many Christian communities. No, it's not. Though some take it more serious than others. For Jehovah's Witness, exclusion is important because it aligns with their interpretation of the Bible teachings. And Besier compares the psychological challenge of leaving a religious group like Jehovah's Witnesses to the difficulties faced when leaving any social group, such as a sports team. noting that emotional distress and feelings of loss are common across all communities. Really? I don't think so. He's comparing it to leaving a sports team. Okay, well, let's carry on. Besier, during cross-examination by the state, confirmed that he has conducted research on Jehovah's Witnesses. He's agreed with their view of being cautious when listening to those who have left the congregation, suggesting that one should primarily listen to active JWs. And he acknowledged that while the stories of former members can be valuable, they might be distorted and incomplete. Well, isn't that what we've seen with the JWs hitting the platform? They're distorted and incomplete. Now, when asked about the concept of shunning, Besier clarified that he was referring to removal from the congregation, not shunning. And he explained that the goal of removal is to encourage individuals to return to the congregation, as the intention is for those who have sinned to repent and rejoin the community. Well, what about those who just want to walk away and join another church? So you can't do that. Now, Besier denied that JWs practice shunning, bullshit, stating that they are more diplomatic now than in the past. That's a big fat lie. Why are they still shunning? And while he acknowledged that some families are stricter about limiting contact with this fellowshipping, he argued that this does not represent the practice of JWs as a whole. Not unless Norway has their own religion, their own JW religion that's different from the whole world. Now, is that the case, JWs? I don't think so. I think these are just all lies. All over the world they shun. And maybe in Norway they're more sensitive towards it because they're being called out in Norway. Now, while he acknowledged that some families are stricter, he argued this does not represent the practice of JWs as a whole. And that's a lie. And he insisted that JWs no longer practice excommunication, have changed their approach, now aiming to help those who leave the faith. Bullshit. Big bullshit on that. He also compared this practice of limiting contact with ex-members to similar practices in other conservative religious communities, such as Lutheran Church in Norway, which follows a similar procedure. He's out to lunch there. Okay, well, that guy is out to lunch. That's a waste of time. This is the guy he's on Wikipedia. He's German, Lutheran, a theologian, historian, politician. Third Reich. He works on church-state relations in the Third Reich, and that's Nazi. This Third Reich comes up. It's Nazi Germany, officially known as the German Reich, and later the Greater German Reich was German states between 1933 and 45, when Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party controlled the country, transforming it into a totalitarian dictatorship. The Third Reich meaning the third realm, or third, it goes on. So that's what this guy did. That's what this guy did. Kind of a Nazi. And in the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, also known as the German Democratic, was a country in Central Europe in 1949 until its reunification with West Germany. It was generally viewed as a communist state. So that's where this guy comes from. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses are turning to. The Third Reich and the German Democratic Republic. This guy, Gerhard Besier. And his publication focused on church history, including church history during the Third Reich, religious freedom issues in contemporary society, and his views on religious freedom follow the libertarian American model. What is that? It's a political philosophy that holds freedom and liberty as a primary value. Many libertarians conceive of freedom in accord with non-aggressive principles, according to which each individual has a right to live as they chose, so long as it does not involve violating the rights of others. The American model stance, which has made him controversial in Germany. Besier taught historical theology at the Heidelberg University from 1992 to 2003. Totalitarianism at the Dresden University. His contact was not renewed following widespread criticism in Germany of his liberal views on Scientology. There you go, folks. So he's a Scientology lover. Scientology is said of the beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard and an associated movement. It is variously defined as a cult, a business, a religion, or a scam. Hubbard initially developed a set of ideas that he called Genetics, which he represented as whatever. So Besier currently holds the chair in the European Studies at Dresden University. He is visiting professor at universities in the States, Sweden, and Poland, and formerly considered close to conservative Christian Democratic Union Party, a Christian Democratic and conservative political party in Germany. It's a major party for the center-right in German politics. So Besier joined the left-wing Die Linke. The left, commonly referred to as the Left Party, is a democratic socialist party in Germany. The party was founded in 2007, results of a meager of the Party of the Democratic Socialists and Labor and Social Justice. So he was nominated for the safe seat of Saxony, whatever that was, the free seat. He holds 3 doctorates, including others. So here's the guy, that's who Jehovah's Witnesses are using, this guy. Okay, well, that's all they have. Witness 17. I don't know how they snuck that guy in because he's not even a JW. He's just a cult apologist. Thought they weren't letting these guys in. Okay, Witness 17, Kåre Sæterhaug, whatever. That's the guy, I guess. Kåre is a member of the Board of Jehovah's Witnesses in Scandinavia. He's a board member of the JWs in Norway and is based at their Scandinavian headquarters in Denmark. His testimony provides insights into the practices and beliefs of JWs, with a focus on the community structure, baptism process, and the concept of exclusion or removal from the congregation. He explains that Jehovah's Witnesses prioritize a personal relationship with God over just acquiring knowledge, and their study process is seen as fostering this relationship rather than simply imparting facts. Each individual is encouraged to make a personal decision based on their conscience. And regarding the role of congregation elders, he says Jehovah's Witnesses do not have priests or bishops. Instead, they have elders who are lay people with qualifications outlined in the Bible. And elders serve as resources for comfort, help, teaching. And they're seen as co-workers, not leaders. Really? I seen them as Pharisees, the elders, Pharisaical leaders, trying to be great, narcissists is what I seen all of these elders as. I seen elders as pedophilia elders that are hidden, that stay hidden, and they stay hidden within the congregation. Sometimes they get exposed, but most of the time they rely on the 2 witness rules. That's what I've seen from elders. Now, elders maintain confidentiality. No, they don't. They talk within. They go to their elders' assemblies and they say, hey, guess what happened to so-and-so? It's all publicized. Nothing's private. That's BS. They're supposed to be fairly confidential, but they're not. And that's a fact. Now, what members share with elders remains within the congregation. See, the reason it's not is because there's no punishment for them letting the beans out of the bag. There's no punishment. You see, if you're a priest, Catholic priest, you get punished if you divulge confidentiality of a confession. But not these guys. So it's quite a bit different. Now, it goes on to say what members share with elders remains within the congregation, and the members are encouraged to seek comfort and advice. Yeah, it remains within the congregation. So other elders are told about it, and it's spread. You see, if you're in the Catholic Church, you go to confess, you talk to a priest, and that's the end of it. And you leave, and that's the end of it. He'll give you some advice. But this here, it's shared with a body of elders. And then they'll even share it with other elders. They talk amongst elders. So I know that for a fact. And if you've been an elder out there, you know that for a fact. You can put it in your comments. Now, he explains that the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses is a group that oversees congregations. It is considered to be similar to the biblical model, with its role focused on publishing literature and guiding the community. That's wrong. The governing body is to be obeyed. over the Bible. That's in their elders' book. He describes baptism as a significant decision that follows a period of study. The process includes consideration of an individual's spiritual maturity. The term removed from the congregation is now used instead of excluded, he says, with the belief that individuals who no longer wish to be part of the congregation can simply announce their decision. Excuse me. And serious sins are considered rare causes for removal. And the practice of disfellowshipping is seen as rare, particularly for minors. Now, he compares their exclusion practice to social distancing from individuals who are seen as unrepentant or engaged in serious sin. And this is based on biblical teachings about not associating with individuals who continue in a sinful behavior. However, individuals who become inactive or who drift away are not socially avoided, and family ties are not typically broken. Now, for all of you out there that read the Bible and believe it, when you read that part in the Bible, social, like the whole thing about disfellowshipping or shunning, that's individual choices in the congregation. It's not to be announced. If there's problems, it's up to the individuals if they wish to shun or limit their association with someone. But it's not to be a group thing where it's announced and the whole group is coerced and told to shun because this person's announced. That's what happens in this religion. Now, this is not based on biblical teachings about not associating with individuals who continue in sinful behavior. However, individuals who become inactive, who drift away, are not socially avoided, and family ties are not typically broken. I don't know. That's what happened to me. I quit, and they made sure that I was announced. Now, he notes that the practice of removal from the congregation has not been adjusted over time. While some people may choose to be removed due to personal struggles or a desire to stop living a double life, the community does not actively avoid individuals who become inactive or face difficulties. And I don't believe that for a minute. That's not the way this religion is. Unless it's made a big change, unless there's a huge change, and I don't know, we haven't seen it. So maybe they need to print some new watchtowers and train the rest of the world on what the new changes are, because I don't see it. Now, the closing comments. The common thread throughout today's proceedings is that those who are expelled from Jehovah's Witnesses do not lose contact with family and friends, yet today's court witnesses would not make themselves available for interview by the media. Why? Because they claim their experience is negative and stigmatizing. At least that is the excuse given by the spokesman for Jehovah's Witness, Horgan Peterson. Now consider the testimonies given today on behalf of Jehovah's Witnesses. They see exclusion as practice intended to encourage individuals to reflect on their actions and return to the congregation. They claim it as a form of discipline to encourage repentance and spiritual reconciliation. Besier, the guy that stands up for Scientology and the Third Reich stuff, this guy, he suggests that exclusion practice has become more diplomatic over time, that there is a shift towards less harsh forms of exclusion. However, he doesn't provide any evidence of how this revised exclusion process works. Additionally, Besier sidestepped the shunning question by discussing removal and looked at that as playing a positive role in encouraging individuals to return to the congregation. Avoiding the real consequences of removal or disfellowshipping manipulates the facts to favor only one side. Couple that with the fact that he said former member stories might be distorted and incomplete without providing evidence that they are, and his lack of acknowledgement that members' stories might also be distorted and incomplete results in a heavily biased testimony, especially for this guy who has nothing to do with JWs. This is his background. This is this guy's background. Remember, he was born in 30th of November 1947, and this is what this guy was into, this kind of stuff. That goes back to 1945. Okay, so coupling that with the fact that he said former members' stories might be distorted and incomplete without providing evidence, his lack of acknowledgement that members' stories might be distorted results in a heavily biased testimony. And overall, the testimonies suggest that the exclusion is an integral but controversial practice in the Jehovah's Witness community, intended to lead to a spiritual correction and reintegration, but also creating significant emotional challenges for those involved. Okay, so that's the end of the article here for day 3, and I always don't turn that off, but so it's let me just blow this back down here. So that's the end of it for day 4. So we talked about all their witnesses, we brought them all up, and now we're going to move into day 5. That will be the next video. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Helps move and push the videos. Please like, please share, and let's get these videos out to the world so we can help the world see what's going on in Norway, and that the Norway JW religion has a whole different look than the rest of the world that we know as JWs. So maybe Norway is changing or paving a new road for this religion. We'll soon see. Okay, well, that brings an end to our video. Keep living your life with love, and we will see you on the next video. Bye for now.